guys, welcome back to The Other Side, where we talk about trials, triumphs, and everything in between. Today, I have a special guest, Violet Moran, also known as the Palm Springs Flipping Queen. But we are not going to put her in that box because she is expanding and growing. And, just meeting her was inspiring for me. And I thought you should all meet her, hear her story. She is doing big things in such a male dominated field and environment. And when you meet her, you're going to see she is just a little thing. So she's a little thing with a lot of power. And, join me in welcoming Violet.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, we are expanding and doing some big things. I'm super excited about what's, coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, before I get into like where you're at, right? I like everybody to know really where you grew up, how you grew up, because I didn't even realize you lived in Whittier for so long and you are pretty much a local girl after 16 years,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, but where did you grow up? Did you grow up local? Because when I met you, most of the things that you had done were in Palm Springs.
Yes.
And I remember seeing your design in Whittier. And I thought of my designer that I adore, David Rios in Palm Springs. And I was like, that is so David. Like, where did this lady come from? How does she know him?
Yes.
And you have been here all along. I just didn't have the pleasure of meeting you yet
Yes.
until, I met you at what? And we met at Joe Dispenza, or had we met
No,
prior?
I think we had met prior. Let me think. Where did we meet?
Probably just a
before?
flipping event, maybe.
Somewhere. I seen you in some event before.
So anyways, then I had the pleasure of meeting you and spending time with you at Joe Dispenza
Yes.
and hearing your story. And it was really inspiring because, finding myself in real estate and then in the flipping space and all these things there are to learn, I just never really had the courage to take the step. But, I had a lot of other things going on in life at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and you did as well. And you shared a lot of that with me. So, that's why I like to kind of go back, right? And kind of lay the foundation of what makes Violet, who makes Violet, Violet.
Yes. Yes. So I came to the U.S. when I was 6 years old. I'm born. I was born in El Salvador,
Mhm.
Central American. And when we came, when my mom brought us, we used to live like Pico and Six, L.A. kind of
Mm-hmm.
area. Growing up, my mom moved a lot, and of course, we moved with her, so we
Right.
moved a lot. I ended up going to high school at Jordan High School in Watts. Yeah, it
Okay.
was a rough area. We used to live in Compton, and uh, I remember when I was in high school, my mom took me out of high school, and I don't know, she kept doing that. When I was from 10 to 12,
Mm-hmm.
she took me back to El Salvador. My sister and I were in El
Mm.
Salvador, and then we came back. She brought us back, and then from like 15 to 17, we went back to El Salvador. Then she brought us back.
You still
Right?
don't know why? Was it maybe for her to have some freedom to work or she needed time or
I never asked her the
but you
reason. I
guys
know
weren't
that.
like she wasn't trying to keep you out of trouble, maybe?
No,
No?
no,
You
I've
were
never
good.
been
Yeah.
that type. But I know the 15 to 17 when she took me, it was because she said she was retiring.
Okay.
From the US, she was retiring, so she
Okay.
sold her property and she sold, she is an entrepreneur. She used to have the big factories in downtown LA.
Oh,
She
wow.
and she had one on Grand and 30th. And I remember at one point she had up to 200 machines on the first floor. On second floor, she had designers cutting all the designs and
Mhm.
and and the cutters and the designers were on
Yeah.
the second floor and all the administrative staff. And so she had a decent operation. So she sold everything and took
That
me
was your
back.
mom married?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
She
So it was
married my
her.
stepdad.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
have a
she
stepdad.
wasn't was she doing this alone and then she met your stepdad or they did it
Mm,
together or was she just like the hustler in the relationship?
I, yeah.
She was the doer.
Yeah, she was a doer. My stepdad's been there with her,
Mhm.
but she's always led, the entrepreneur side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what her parents did by any chance? Were they entrepreneurs as well, or did your mom kind of
No,
pave
I
the
think it was my mom because my grandmother was a homemaker. She had 9 kids.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
okay. So she was too busy.
she was very busy, and she died. She passed really young.
Oh.
She passed when she was 50.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
young with
she
9
passed.
kids,
Yeah,
yeah.
she had a stroke and she passed.
So how old was your mom at this point? Do you know?
I don't know.
Oh, I wonder. Well,
But
because,
my mom
that
was
makes you grow up kind of quick, right?
she had to, and plus back then in El Salvador, I think she got pregnant with my eldest at 15. So it was that time, that kind of time where people
Yes.
would have kids
Got
very
married
young.
young and had children young.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so she did have to grow up quick.
Yeah.
But she's always been, I think I get my entrepreneurship from her.
Yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was doing big things
Yes, yes.
in a time that women really weren't doing, much at all, right? And especially in the entrepreneur space, business owning
Yeah.
space.
And she, my goodness, hard worker. I remember I didn't see her until I used to see her on Sundays only
Mm.
because she would wake up and go to work before I woke up, and she would come back after I had gone to bed. She would work
Ah,
from 6 a.m. to 10
well,
p.m.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's what she was sending you, but she needed a vacation.
Probably. Well, we were three sisters. And I think it was not so much because we were burdened or she wanted to get rid of us. I don't know where the 10 to 12, I was too
Hmm.
young to know. My oldest sister would probably
Yeah.
know, but I didn't know what was the deal with that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, your mind can go so many places, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And she's a really good saver. And I remember when we grew up, we all used to sleep in, the three of us used to sleep on a queen size bed. Right? So
Oh,
we always lived in little small
yeah.
apartments and,
But it
you know,
kept you close,
it did. It
right?
did. That's why, it's so interesting because, I don't mind, okay, we got to sleep in the couch. It's okay,
Yeah.
Or I remember growing up, I used to bring my nieces and nephews and my kids and had movie night, blankets on the floor. We all used to sleep
Yeah.
in
It
the
was
living room.
so
Yeah.
fun. And really, I think that's a lot of what families and kids are missing these days.
Yeah.
I mean, now they're communicating on the headphones on the video games, and they're really not hanging out unless they're in sports.
Yeah.
And, you also have to go search for that because they're not in every school anymore and stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then,
So when I came back from El Salvador at 17, I went to live with my sister.
mm-hmm.
My sister lived in Rosemead, and
Okay.
that's how we started coming on this way.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then I ended up, marrying at 20 years old and moved to Pico Rivera.
Well, yeah. So you're a local
Yeah.
girl.
So Pico Rivera, and then after Pico Rivera, then I think I bought a property in Montebello. Then after Montebello, Whittier.
So
So
what
that's kind of
started
how
the
I landed.
flipping for you?
So it
Well, I do want to talk about the lady,
okay. Okay,
right?
yeah.
Because,
So that kind of led up to
yes,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So I started in this industry, over 2 decades ago.
Hmm.
I first bought a condo in Montebello, and then I was going through the divorce of the first marriage. And in that divorce, of course, we needed to sell the condo, split the assets. I bought a house in Pico Rivera. That property, I remember this was maybe 2003,
Hmm.
and the property started shooting up, right, all the way to
Oh, yeah.
2007. And I remember the agent that helped me buy that house, she was the one that suggested, well, why don't you refinance it? And I said, well, why would I refinance it? And she says, because if you refinance it, you can pull the money out and buy another house. And I said, well, why do I need another
Yeah.
house? Right? I was young. Why do I need another house? Well, what you can do is you can rent them by bedrooms, convert the garage, and then make money. After you pay all the bills and everything, you get to keep some money.
And how old were you at this time?
I was maybe mid 20s. I was
Okay.
mid 20s.
You were young.
Yeah.
You were young to be going through a
Oh,
divorce.
that means I've been doing this more than
It's crazy when we
like
really do the
25
numbers, huh?
years. Yeah. So I stopped at 20, okay, over 2 decades, right? And so I did what she said.
Hmm.
I refinanced the house, bought another house. I rented it by bedrooms, converted the garage.
Well, what made you take action on everything she said, though? Like, yeah. Well, I guess you were young, right? You were
I, w-
brave. When you're young, you're kind of just really brave.
I've always been that type.
Yeah. But
So
your mom was a doer
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So,
And I have, how we all have different comfort zones in,
hmm,
in the risks that we take.
yes.
I've been very comfortable with risk.
Yes. Which is important,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we can never grow if we're not willing to take a risk,
Yeah.
big or small.
Right. We do take some punches in the gut, but
Hmm.
overall, those risks, have been more successful than none for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which keeps you going.
Yes.
Okay,
And
so
so
then
so then that's what I started doing. And
mhm.
then after I saw how successful that house was, after paying the bills and everything, I was keeping, a certain amount of money. Then I started thinking, hey, what about if I do it times five?
Yeah.
And so we did exactly the same thing. We we ended up refinancing that second one and then bought another one. So I would have an inventory of 5 or 6 houses
Mhm.
that I would do this with, right? And if the living rooms were big, we would close up the living room, right, and leave a smaller living room and create an extra bedroom for more income.
Yes. So that's what they call house hacking. I've
Yes,
heard them
but
called
no,
call
house hacking is more when you live in it, right?
Oh,
These I
okay.
wasn't living in them. This is more like pad splits now. They
Oh,
have a
okay.
name for them now. It's
Yeah,
pad
yeah.
splits. Yeah, as many bedrooms as you can.
I haven't heard that term.
No,
No.
really. Yeah, it's very popular in
Pad,
Vegas.
PAD
Yeah,
splits?
yeah,
Okay.
Pad Split,
Yeah.
and there's a site that
Oh,
people can actually go and rent by the bedroom, and they take care of everything. Yeah, you just
really?
have to have the property.
Well,
They
that's a
deal
new
with the
one to
tenants. Yeah,
me.
yeah,
See what happens when you stop hanging out in the investor space? You really, it's like the terminology, it
yeah,
changes so quickly and the ideas come so swiftly because, they change so rapidly with the
yeah.
times. That's one thing I noticed about investors. They really are on top of everything, man.
You just have to stay connected, though.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is
I'm
why I go
saying
to the
like the
events.
YouTubes, this, yeah, even watching the YouTubes, I learned a lot on there, but the events is where you really have the good conversations
Yes,
because you're meeting people and they're experienced and they've done it.
and I have friends in Vegas that are doing a lot of Pad Splits. And
Oh,
so this is,
okay.
or when I heard about it, I'm like, wait, I used to do this back in the day in a different way, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what they're doing. And so I started that
So
way.
you were ahead of your time.
I was ahead of my time. Yeah. But then the crash was coming, and that agent told me it was coming, so I sold everything at a high. So
Wow.
I got out just in time. I
So
didn't.
she really helped you.
She did. She did help me. I was really grateful to her.
Mhm.
She also meant I thought we had a solid relationship. I
Yes.
trusted her
Yes.
because she had guided me
Yeah.
in things that I didn't even know.
Mhm.
And so when I bought the last property where I put all my gains from that time,
Mhm.
I couldn't buy it quite yet because I was using, some of the houses were under my name,
Mhm.
and I couldn't qualify for that one just yet
Oh,
until I finished selling the other ones.
right.
And she was nice enough to suggest that I put the house under her brother's name. And so I trusted her to
Yeah.
through that until that time. I didn't know or didn't think that she had ever done anything for me not to trust her. So
Yeah.
I did that. I put it under her name, and after escrow closes, after a while you get a refund.
Mhm.
And then I gave the check to her to have her brother cash it and give me the money. And I kept calling her, and she wouldn't answer me. Finally, she answered me. And the first story was that the check he had cashed it, but went and the and gave it to my lender, which was his lender, right?
Yeah.
The lender to bring down the debt. And at the end of the year, I got that statement where it shows all the payment you've made to the bank, and I noticed that
Oh.
that wasn't there. So then I contacted her again, and
What was the amount on this?
I think it was like between 5 and 7,000.
Yeah.
But back then it was
Yeah, and
substantial.
that's a lot of
Yeah,
money to you because
yeah.
you're in your 30s at this point,
Yeah.
right?
Back then that was substantial, and I kept asking her for it, and then when I showed her that the money wasn't deposited, and she said, "Oh my god, I didn't know." And after that she wasn't answering my calls.
Mm.
And then I sent her an email. I said, "Hey, this is not cool. Where's that money?" And her daughter responded for her. And she basically said to me that I was a renter there. That what was I thinking that, what was I claiming that her uncle was the owner, and I
Oh,
was just renting the property.
wow.
So at that point, I took all my paperwork to my attorney, and I said, "Hey, this is happening." And he basically said, "You don't have a leg to stand on
Mhm.
because none of this, either deed, nothing's under your name." And I said, "But I have proof that I've been paying it, that I did the deposit." He's like, "That doesn't matter. You could be a renter paying it." And so at that point, he gave me a couple suggestions. He
I just
says,
felt it in my chest.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So at that point, he gave me a couple suggestions. You can either move out and move on, or you can go after her DRE license.
Mhm.
You can tie up the property for years and live in it for free, right? And do all these things.
Mhm.
But and so I thought about it for like
Mhm.
a week. And to me, my peace was more important.
Yeah.
I didn't want anybody knocking on my door or living in fear that
Yeah.
I'm not paying this house and I've tied it up. And it was just so messy. That just not, it
Yeah.
wasn't how I wanted to
Yeah.
live. So I just decided to save up a little and I moved out. Yeah.
Good for you. But it takes a lot, right? To realize like I got screwed and accept it. Because, we do take some responsibility a
Right.
little bit and we have to.
Right.
But
But at that time, I realized I'm losing. I've lost. She did that. But I was never. Maybe now I think about it. Now that I share my story, I think
mhm,
about it. Oh yeah, that was dumb. But I think it was more because I was naive and
mm.
trusting. Right. So
And yeah, I
you
wouldn't
don't
say
know.
it was dumb. We can't say we're dumb when she made you a lot of money.
She
She
did.
really helped
Yeah.
you. I
And
mean,
then
at this point, I mean, honestly, personally, right, you'd consider somebody kind of family. Like, wow, they're really looking out for my best
and
interest.
so I thought, and now, I actually have the papers and I still haven't thrown them away. I think I
Mm,
have to burn them or do something like a little
Yeah, a
ritual to
little
let it go.
ceremony. Yeah.
But I didn't know that at
We
that
should do
time,
that together.
right? We should.
Yeah.
Um, at that time, I didn't realize because I was so naive,
Mhm.
right? I didn't understand what the closing statement to go through it thoroughly and what it was
Yeah.
a closing statement. I didn't
Yeah.
know anything, right?
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
I was so
Well,
green.
she handled your real estate for you.
And then I went back a couple years later and looked at all of those, and she had put a bunch of fees on there to be paid from escrow
Oh, she
when I
was
would
already kind
refinance
of
it.
burning you and you didn't realize it. You
Yes,
want
she
to
would put it
trust her so much.
when I would buy the property, she would put a bunch of handyman fees that
Oh.
were never done to the property. She would put, just a whole bunch of
Mhm.
yeah,
So lesson, right?
yeah.
Watch your documents no matter
Oh,
how trusting they
yes.
seem. Read your own documents. Maybe seek your own maybe legal counsel, right? Before signing documents like that. People don't realize how much, even when I started real estate, it was like, wow, like we're attorneys and we don't get paid attorney money, but I don't think they do the training that they should like they do for attorneys. But these are legal binding documents and
Right.
it's very important that your agent or whoever you're working with knows all those little boxes that can be checked that shouldn't be or the ones that should be checked and aren't, to keep you out of trouble or keep you from losing your home because
Right.
a lot of people lose their home. We just had somebody come in talk about escrow. This man, sometimes you get those WhatsApp, the messages, and they're like, oh, I'm trying to buy a house for $1.3 million, but they don't, oh, it's an email, but I could only communicate on WhatsApp. You're like, okay, that's your first sign, maybe not, not the best deal. But okay, so you get through this, you let it go. Now, how do you end up investing again? Like, where do you get the courage to move forward one more time?
So I went to work for this man. He became my mentor, through the years. I
Mhm.
worked for Car Cash for 10 years. And that's when I learned about agreements, contracts,
Mm,
interest rates, everything. So years later, that's when I went through the agreements and that's when I found all the discrepancies,
okay.
right? And so I was their, I started as a manager and got all the way to being their COO, VP and
Wow, right
COO.
on.
And so I worked for him for a long time. And, I saw how much money I was making somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Because I saw his business like mine.
Mhm.
And I kept thinking, I have to go back and just do things for myself.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, but what is it? What kind of business do I want to run?
How
What
old
do
were
I
you
want?
at this time now?
Late 30s,
Okay.
late 30s. Um, but I was thinking all this, and then I went through my second divorce during that time. So that was
Mm.
really tough. And at that time, I didn't have a wherewithal to handle the pressures of managing, a company
Yeah.
and going through a divorce, let alone starting something else. And
Yes.
so I put that on pause for a while. Then after I found enough healing, enough strength, and the hunger again
Mhm.
after that divorce, then I started thinking, what is that I want to do? For a whole year, I would ask myself, what is that I want to do? And the answer always came back to real estate.
Really?
Because
Oh, that's where you started and you enjoyed it. You became really
well,
good at it.
that's what it was because I was doing a lot of self-help books,
I was going to
self-educating,
ask you that. Yes.
and I
Did you
had
ever get a coach or anything, a therapist, or you kind of, yes, you
yes,
did.
yes. So after that divorce, I went to therapy. I love therapy. And
Okay.
we've talked about
Yes.
that. I'm such a fan of therapy, not so much because you're broken or in any way. You know, I am at this point more fascinated about, the human mind and what we do. And
Yeah.
I've learned to accept a lot of my mistakes more
Yes.
like an observer, like, oh yeah, I did that. Like
Yeah.
him, versus, judging myself for it, right?
Yes.
It's
Well,
more like an
because
observer.
we only know what we know at that time. The
Right,
decisions we make are from what we know or where we're at in our healing and our
right,
pain
right.
because you make a lot of poor decisions when you're in pain and so yeah, we have to give ourselves grace for sure.
I have. I've made a lot of peace with some of the mistakes that I've
I
made.
love
But
it.
now with therapy and, and also spiritualism, I'm
Mhm.
I'm a Christian, spirituality, I've put connected the dots, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, no wonder. Oh, no wonder I did this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it
Yeah, when
wonderful?
you zoom out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're like, "Oh my god." Even sometimes you're like, "Wow."
Yeah.
But then it just takes you to the next stage of healing, huh?
It
Because like you
does.
said, you wanna know more. It's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's how that works. How does that work?" You know?
Yes. And so I started doing a lot of internal work, with I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I
Mhm.
was driving from Whittier to La Cienega for 10 years,
Yeah.
back and
Wow.
forth every day.
That's a lot of time
That's a
to
lot of time,
think.
at least 3 hours and a half.
Yeah.
And that whole time every day was to educate
Ooh,
myself.
feeding your
I
mind.
was feeding
Good
it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. You have to stay with that stuff playing. I don't care if you play it in the background, let it play because our mind has a tendency to drift. But there's a word or a statement or a sentence that'll catch our mind, and it's because it's something we needed to hear.
And it's a muscle. When I started listening, my mind would wander. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, what did I miss?
Mm-hmm.
Rewind. Right.
Yes.
And so it's a muscle that you build.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I tell them because eventually you're just going to be tuning in because you're going to be so hungry for that information because you're going to realize
I
that
couldn't
that's
get
what you
enough.
need to hear.
I would go
Yeah.
through so many audiobooks during the week because I
Mhm.
had time, right?
Yeah.
And it all started because I would get bored. I listened to this playlist. I listened to this playlist. I'm bored, right? I wanted more. I
Yeah.
wanted more. So I started feeding my brain. And then what ended up happening is, a lot of the gurus, they would all say, in order for you to be super successful, what you do, what's your passion? What do
Mm.
you want to do?
Mhm.
What do you love? So you don't feel like you're getting up and going
Yeah.
to work. And I feel that with what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Real estate.
I do.
I do hear that with a lot of, successful real estate
You have
investors.
to. You
Well,
have
yeah,
to.
yeah.
It has to be a passion.
Yeah, they're like, you have to be what was hungry, addicted, like
Yeah,
addicted,
yeah.
And I do. You guys eat, breathe, and sleep real estate.
Yeah.
But, you're buying, you're flipping, you're selling, you're, purchasing, housing, like staging, So yeah, you really do have your hands in a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And so now you got into what? How did you first step into it again?
So in 2013,
You met the mentor and then,
yeah, yeah. Well, that was the owner of Car Cash Loans,
okay.
and I went to him and I said I want to start flipping. I want to start in the real estate market again. And he's like, well, go find a house, and bring it to me and see if it's a deal, and I'll help you. And I said, okay. And so
Wow.
I remember, there's an agent, which is the house that I live in, Whittier. She's the
Mm-hmm.
one that helped me find the house. And I called her and I said, hey, Christina, I'm looking for a house to flip. And she brought me a house to flip. I was so happy to
Yeah.
buy that house. But I had a comadre, right, that went with me to
Yeah.
see it. And she's like, no, don't buy that house. It was condemned. There was, addiction people in there,
Oh, yeah.
for lack of
Yes, yes.
appropriate word. And then it was also burned
Mm.
because I think they tried taking out the wiring, and there was a side that was burned. That's why it was condemned from the
Yeah.
city. It was for sale for 40 grand. This
Oh,
was
wow.
in Lake Elsinore.
Oh, wow.
40 grand. I got it down to like 20 something thousand
It
because
just makes me laugh because, when you think of friends, family,
they're
even
like,
realtors,
no,
right?
don't
And then you
do
think of investors,
it. Uh-huh.
and everybody else walks in like, oh my God. And investors walk in like, wow. Like you
I
just
saw the
see the
comps. If I get it at 20 something, and then I brought my handyman, we can fix it for 30 something. We ended up selling it in less than 30. So the whole process of buying it, closing, we were ready to go on the market 30 days after that. Right?
Wow.
We
That's
moved super
yes,
quick.
girl.
It was a small property.
Mhm.
We moved super quick, and it was really basic.
Yeah.
But then we sold it cash for 120.
Wow.
Right? So
Yeah.
my investor made 30, I meant
Yep.
30, and then
And then he was ready for the next one.
that's what he said, go find another one. Oh, but actually that happened just as my divorce started to happen. And so when he said go find another one, I intended to, and that's when my divorce happened.
Mm.
And that was pretty devastating for me.
Yeah.
So I couldn't.
How long did
couldn't.
that set you back?
Not too long.
Yeah,
Yeah, we fall. Yeah, we hurt our knees.
yeah.
We cry for a year.
Yeah,
But then we
okay,
get up the
so
next year.
Okay, yeah.
No.
Well, I say set you back only because it's not setting you back in depression, right? It's setting you back in the idea, okay, now I have to start my life over again. You have to restabilize yourself. You have to go through the healing process, so there's a lot that goes
And
that
by the time I
should
was
go
done
on, I
with
think.
my divorce, all the savings were depleted, going to attorneys. I don't know if you know my story, but it's the opposite. You know how like some women marry the man, but then the man had already started on their
Yes.
financial journey and they
Yes.
want half of everything.
Yes.
Well, that happened to me the other way around,
Ugh.
right? Where he
Yeah.
wanted half of everything that I had, and I tried to fight it, but California law is California law.
Mhm.
So,
Well, there you go,
ladies,
people.
yeah,
See, it works both ways.
both
You know what?
ways.
I heard someone say, and I wish I remember who it was, but she said, when a man wants you to sign a prenup, you should be glad. I think it was my rich BFF. Like,
Okay.
you should be glad that he has you sign a prenup, and you should also have a prenup because that protects you and it protects him and it protects you from the state deciding what's best for you.
Right.
At least you can decide at the beginning what's best for you.
Right.
You
And
know?
then the prenups can't be one-sided either.
Right.
So, that is very true. If there's a man that wants you to sign a prenup, in order for that to be valid in court, it has to be fair on both sides. Right?
Okay.
For that to be held up in court.
So there's even
So
stipulations.
there's stipulations.
So you
to
can't
take care
marry
of you
somebody and
also.
yeah, just have them sign over no rights. Like you get nothing.
Right,
Oh, okay.
right.
Well, that's good.
And then a prenup is also good because a lot of people that are wealthy, they have a trust set up where
Yes.
even if they marry or divorce,
And
I don't own
family and
anything.
kids.
I don't
and-
own
yeah.
anything. It's all the trust, right? So
Oh.
it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. But at 20, I married this man when I was 27, 28.
Well, that's why I'm
And
saying
no
it.
one,
And
at least for me, I was
Yeah.
not thinking at 27, 28.
how
let me do a
many
prenup.
women are older? Come on, you hear it. They're in their 50s and getting married and not signing a prenup.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, it happens. That's why, no judgment ever because, you don't know what you don't know.
Right. And so that separation happened at 38. I when I was 38, and that was hard.
Yeah, I bet.
That was hard 10 years later.
I mean, nobody gets married waiting for the divorce. Yeah.
Yeah. And then for me, I thought that was the person I was going to age with. That was my marriage. That's,
Yeah.
so
Build with.
it was really hard to accept it. Right?
Yeah.
It was really hard to accept it, and that's why I went to therapy. And in therapy, and this is for, I'm sharing this because I'm hoping if there's somebody out there going through this, it's not easy. And for me, because I was 38 going on 40, I knew I wasn't going to have any more kids.
Yeah.
That was the last chance of that white picket fence and family and a dog and having that
Yeah.
circle. Anything that came after that, it's a blended family. I don't mind so much blended family, but no more kids, no more, it's
So there was
somebody
two
new.
deaths in that relationship.
And it was
the death of the relationship and the death of the future you had imagined
Yes.
with that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
The
so
family.
that was really hard. And
Yeah.
we were both really angry
Mhm.
because as soon as we ended it because he made a choice to go outside the marriage, right?
Yeah.
And so, and me being a little feisty Salvadorian,
Yeah.
that was the day I found out, that same day I took all his stuff out, right? And so he was angry. I understood that later from my therapist that he felt like I pulled the rug under him, right?
Isn't it crazy? It is so crazy.
But of course, my life changed forever, right?
Yeah.
But the reaction is
Yeah. I
was
know. I know. Like I get it. I do. But it's like, hello, like you pulled the rug first, stupid.
I didn't want to say it, but You said it. Yes.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know? But yeah, it's like, okay, whatever. Instead, but I guess it's the cry for help maybe, right? And you just don't give a shit. It's like, I don't care what you're crying for. I'm done.
Yeah. And most people I know, when they make a mistake, they have empathy.
Mm,
And in that divorce, there was no empathy.
mm.
Instead, there was anger.
Well, you have a lot of past, right? Everybody has a past. Everybody has past trauma.
Mm.
They have a reason why their emotions are coming off. We have a reason why we pick each other. Yeah.
Those beautiful trauma bonds.
Yes, yes, all those
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
So there is an answer for all of it, but until you start digging,
Then you,
right?
then you kind of see the other side, and you're able to not maybe understand it in a way where, oh, okay, that makes sense. What he went through, right? It's
Mhm.
hard for me to understand it because I would have never walked those steps,
Right.
right? But yeah, it was really hard. So that's why I started therapy,
Yeah,
because I
I
couldn't
love that.
understand how, I felt I did the best I could in that
Mhm.
relationship, and yet I felt victimized by, the way it ended. And on top of that, not just the physical act, but then the emotional drop, the financial fight,
Yeah.
just it was
The
like the
anger, the
the
ugly,
worst
yeah.
betrayal I think I've had in
Mhm.
my life, because this was the person I slept with every night for 10
Mm.
years, and I trusted.
Yeah.
I had people come to me and tell me, family members, hey, you're making a lot more money now. Maybe you should open a separate little account. And I
Mm.
would get offended. I would think, why would I ever want to do that? I
Yeah.
said, if I can't trust the person I'm with, then why would I marry them?
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
much trust I had in
Yeah.
this
Well, that's
person.
how much trust most of us have.
Yeah.
That's why I made a point of the prenup because, we all go into marriage with so much love, so
Hmm.
much hope, so much, like sincerity and confirmation.
Yeah.
Like we're just so sure
Yeah.
that this is it.
And even in the marriage I trusted, the words that were said to me were, hey, I know you've worked really hard for what you have. When I met you, you've had some things, and I would never take nothing that's not mine.
Yeah.
And
Until they're pissed off.
exactly, number one thing that I had to learn and get over is the person you're married is not the person you're divorcing.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I
100%.
couldn't see the person that I married, and I just
Yeah.
couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you have to deal with an addict in my
Yeah.
case, that the addict isn't the person I married.
Mm.
Otherwise you'd be so confused and torn, right? They'd just become a different person.
Yeah.
It's like Jekyll and Hyde.
And
That
yet
shadow
and
takes
yet you
over and
miss
the
the person
ego
you
and
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
of
You
course.
miss the person that you fell in love with. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So you're mourning that death,
Yeah.
So yeah, divorce is tough, man. It's definitely a death.
Yeah.
Because, and which sometimes is harder because
You
they're right
see
over
them.
there.
That's what my therapist exactly what she said. Divorce is a death, but it's even harder because you see them.
Yes, yeah, and you see them going on with their life and sometimes maybe even having this relationship that you had imagined, and you're like, "What? Why in the hell is it working over there?" And but then sometimes you're alone with them. You get that opportunity to watch, and then you know how it works, and you're like, "Oh yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad it didn't work for me."
I understand it now.
Yeah, there's so much. Huh?
I am being very ladylike. I
Yeah.
understand it now. Let's keep it classy. No, I understand it now. I think the Lord had a different path for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think I would be in this path if I was still in that relationship.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing up God because you know what I've even me, right? For me, I've met so many Christians who are not so Christian. So I don't want to be that person who talks about God all the time. But I can't help when he's helped me so much in my life and you just brought him up. So where did he really play a big part in your life? And you grew up Catholic, I'm assuming?
Yes, I was baptized Catholic. I so I was never the type to go to church on Sundays.
Hmm.
I remember my mother would take us maybe on Easter,
Yeah, the holiday.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
it. Or my sister, the eldest of the three of us, would yell at me to go on that day. And that was it. That was the extent of it.
Mm.
I always believed there was a
Mhm.
God, and and I've always tried to be a good person. But until my aunt has helped me a lot to bring me closer to him.
Mm.
So my aunt, she's I think 75 now,
Okay.
but she lived with me for a long time. In order for me to be able to um do the business that, that I do,
Yeah,
because
you
I live in
travel a
Whittier, I
lot.
travel. And so my aunt lived with me for a while, and she is, a very devoted Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to talk to me about God and the Lord all the time in the word,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I remember at the beginning, I didn't like it. I felt like somebody was pushing it down my throat.
Mm.
And she stopped.
Which is natural.
Yes,
Yeah.
you rebel against
Yeah.
it, and which is not something. And I think she kind of saw that,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't ready for it, but she would talk to me about it, but not push it down my throat
Mm-hmm.
anymore. So in the back, it just kept coming up, kept coming up. And so little by little, I started educating myself more. Little by little, I started going to church, and I went to a Christian church.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it was her, and then also after my divorce, I dated, somebody, I was with them for 9 years. I
Okay.
never married, because of, what happened in my
Yeah.
first divorce. And then there's issues in that relationship where I didn't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so but he was also devoted Christian at times. And so he knows a lot about, the Bible, and they
Mm-hmm.
would talk to me about it. And that's when I started getting closer and closer to God. Yeah. And going to Christian churches, and I think I've always been spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
but more, getting closer to, a religion.
I'm going to ask you a personal question, and only because I was raised Catholic, right?
Mhm.
They're very, I met you. Also, we've done breath work together. And, when Catholic churches, right? I mean, that's my base. That's where I found God. So nothing against the Catholic religion. It is what it is. But it did also make me always feel like guilty for thinking outside of, you know, the Bible, right?
Right.
The angels and numbers and those types of things. So it did turn me off for a long time because I was very confused because I knew where like my soul was being called for me,
Mhm.
right? And but then I always had this in the back of my head, like, well, you can't do that. I mean, but there's even some Christian churches that breath work, yoga, so how do you keep yourself focused on now because it's still new to you, right? Your relationship, just focused on your relationship.
But
Because feeling like a lot of people think like, oh, they can't, right? They're still in the rebellious stage
Mhm.
because they're afraid that they're going to have to choose
Right.
something.
Right.
So how would you maybe kind of let them know, like, you don't have to choose, you're going to feel it, or did you feel it, or how did that go for you?
So it's really interesting. The Lord convicts your heart.
Yeah,
It's
that's the
really
way I feel.
it's really interesting because y- you know, I don't know, I just read it not too long ago. God doesn't say, "Come to me perfect." It's come to me as you are.
Mm-hmm.
And as you start getting closer and closer, he convicts your heart of, you start feeling what's appropriate and what isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you get closer to God, he'll speak to you. So, I do prayer, right? I
Yeah.
pray. And I heard this from Carlos Reyes. He's an investor, and
Mm-hmm.
he said it's so good. And I even have it on my social media, that conversation,
Yeah.
where he says that when you pray, you speak to God.
Yeah.
But when you meditate, it's when you hear God.
Yes.
And so I meditate,
Yeah.
and I hear him. And it's really interesting because I usually pray in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that, sometimes I meditate, sometimes I don't, and I
Yeah.
get in the shower. But I don't know if the sound of water or what, or the silence
Oh,
of just you, water and shower, I think I hear him then the most.
yes. There is the water. There's the
It
water
is.
energy connection for sure.
I didn't know that. That's for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because that's I know because I looked because that's for me.
Ah.
Yeah, and it's funny when you said, when you meditate, because I'll never forget this morning. I got in the shower and I forgot my radio. And I usually listen to my YouTubes, whatever, all the things I want to hear that
Feeding your
morning.
brain.
Yes, feeding my brain or my worship music. And I was like, well, maybe this is good. I could let God talk to me. It's a good time. And I'm in there and I'm like, okay, God, talk to me. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm waiting. And you're impatient and I'm kind of talking to him. And then I'm not joking, Violet. I heard, well, shut up so I could talk to you. And I just started laughing. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. you know, but right. I think you can agree, even if the answers don't come to you at the point of your meditation, They'll come to you later, and they'll come to you in a song, or they'll come to you in a conversation,
Or messages.
or yes, or messages that
Messages, and you're like, it's exactly what I needed to hear. Yeah.
yes, it's the craziest thing. So I love that you said that. But I do want to get back to your business because I don't want to get off track. And okay, so then you got back into investing and you started doing well.
Mhm.
Okay, and then so now what? You found your second house? Yes? No, you had the divorce.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Now you
So,
healed.
yeah, we healed, and that house in Whittier is where, we're talking earlier about refinancing,
Mhm.
buying him out, having to
Mhm.
pay out. And so I started picking up the pieces and starting, all over again. By the
Yeah.
time that divorce ended, my savings were depleted. A lot of things were gone. Now, all the expenditures, everything accumulated between both of us were a
Mm.
lot on my plate. Even for child support, because I was making a lot more,
Oh,
it
wow.
was like almost non-existent.
So he just got you every way he could.
Yeah. Yeah.
No
So
dignity, huh? I'm sorry. I said it, guys. Come on. You're going to go after your woman for everything? Please. How can you call yourself a man after that? But whatever.
and I try always to not, because we have a daughter, not talk
Of course. I'm
negative,
sorry.
because we have a daughter in
Hmm.
between. No, 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 no. You can, your opinion. Um, I don't say I don't agree,
Yeah.
but I noticed that during our divorce, we were both angry. I was so hurt.
Yeah.
I was angry, and he was angry, and so we were both feisty, angry people. And I saw how much that hurt our daughter.
Mm.
And so years later, I could have taken him to court. I could have,
Hmm.
never did. Didn't ever want to drag my daughter through any of that anymore.
It's beautiful when you sacrifice for your kids in that sense
Mhm.
because they didn't choose to be in the middle of the drama. And oh, it is so painful and I don't think people realized how painful it is for the children to be
Mhm.
put in the middle of chaos.
Right.
Fortunately for me I never have, but I've coached women who've been through it and it does it leaves them with so much trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I didn't want her to keep reliving
well, not to
issues.
mention on how they pick their men too in the future,
Right.
if they do at all, because they have so much trauma from what they saw when they were young.
Yeah.
Right?
I think, one thing I'm super grateful for is I stayed in Whittier, and so did he.
Mm,
Our daughter just turned 18. She's in college now. And we both made a commitment to be there for her.
yeah,
We were It was
you're
good for
young.
her, it was great
Yeah.
for her, it was bad for each other. Because, my son would go to In and Out and would see him with the other new
Mm.
partner, and that was really hard the first years, but after, it ended up working out really well for my daughter. I think my daughter is very balanced,
It
because regardless, he has always been there for her.
nice.
Yeah.
So it makes them actually more well-rounded
Yeah,
because
she
they didn't
is.
get you under the same roof, but at
Mhm.
least, it wasn't a fight and she
And
could
that
see him just as easily
Yeah, and
as
that's the thing we both unite in.
yeah,
That
beautiful.
anything happens to her, we don't care about. We both, okay. You got the axle, I'll drive.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Well,
whatever, the shovel, and I'll drive.
I'm sure you can agree,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You've both grown
yeah,
and you've both healed
yeah.
and you both see kind of where it went wrong
Mhm.
and yeah, sounds like taking a little bit of responsibility and at least been able to move on. Maybe not taking a I can't speak on that and I won't because not everybody is that lucky, but at least when it comes to the agreement that we're going to be civil
Yeah.
for our daughter and so they can at least have a somewhat, balanced life like you
Yeah.
said. So good for you. So you ended up with that house and then did you end up refining that house to get another property?
Well, I refinanced that house to buy him out.
Okay.
And then I had a bigger payment, and I had to
Mhm.
adjust to that. And then, I kept thinking real estate, kept thinking real estate.
Mhm.
And I remember I went to, I don't know if you remember this. This is going to age me even more.
Mhm.
Do you remember Armando
You look
Montelango?
amazing.
Oh, thank you.
No, Violet, I
No?
just got into real
Oh
estate
my
in
gosh.
2019.
He was the first flipper on TV, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
If
Okay.
you Google him, he
Yeah.
was the first flipper on TV, and he had this whole program, coaching, blah blah blah. So I went to it, and
Oh,
I paid, I think, like 14,000 for it,
wow.
and I'm
But
used.
you invested in yourself once again because you invested in yourself in counseling
Yeah.
and all your self-help stuff that you did. And
Yes.
so now you're
And
investing
and
in
and not
yourself.
that I had the money. It was, I remember on my Freedom card for Chase, because you used to go to these events and they used to tell you
It's
how to
true.
call your credit card,
Mhm.
ask them to increase the limit between this one and this one. You can pay da da da.
Yeah.
And I was like, should I? Should I? But
It's
the
the
one thing,
biggest investment yourself, right?
but the one thing I do know about myself, one thing I know for sure is that when I invest in myself, it pays dividends,
Yes.
right? So I
Mhm.
went with that.
Good.
Right? I think out of that group, I think there was only one other person that actually became a flipper from that group. Everybody else did it. Yeah.
Really?
The odds of you actually doing it is really
Yeah.
low.
Well, yeah. It is. It is. It's a big decision. And then finding people you trust,
Right.
because everybody has a story, right? And I thought that was also important why I wanted to have you on because, how many people do we know that get knocked down and then they never get back up again? But, you've been knocked down and knocked down and knocked down and you get up and you get up and you get up and look where you're at today. So I need people to know like you can get knocked down multiple times. It does not define who you are. Those mistakes, those decisions, they happened. You
Yeah.
learned and you grew. And, that's the most important part
Yeah.
is that you did something with it and you continue to learn, you continue to grow, and you continue to like thrive.
Yes. And it hasn't been easy, and you know, not to say that, oh my God, I'm at a level now that I'm just cruising. It's not that way at all. We just came out of, a 2 year, you know, cycle of interest rates going
Mm-hmm.
up. It's been really tough for a lot of investors, and I had a different, a hard situation with one of my hard money lenders. And so we still get the punches in the gut,
Yeah.
but one thing I know about myself is that I won't stop.
Mm-hmm.
I won't stop. And so it makes me really sad when somebody gets knocked down so many times and it kills their spirit,
Yeah.
right? And that's the one thing I pray for to the Lord, not to kill my spirit, to keep me going.
Yeah. Well, you just have this spirit. One, you have your fire from your culture,
Yeah.
and that spills over from your mother's fire. Your mom
Mhm.
had some fire. I do want to go back to your mom really. Where is she now?
She's retired in El Salvador, living her best life.
Okay, so
Yeah.
she's still alive and
Yeah.
she's living her best
Oh
life in
yeah.
El Salvador. I
And she
wanted to hear
comes
that.
to the US about, once a year, and she stays 2 months. She usually
Oh,
stays with me.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so good. She built a good life for her. She earned it, right?
Yeah. She lives really well.
Oh,
Yeah, she still owns our childhood property over there.
mm-hmm.
She owns multiple properties. I own land. We
Yeah.
still have investments over there, which are super thriving right now. Yeah.
Right on. Okay, so what got you into your next investment? How were you brave enough after the refinancing? You had to build income again.
I had no money
Yeah.
after that. And I remember I told Reed again, hey, I want to start doing it. Again, he said, go find it. There's this coach that's trying to charge me this much. He goes, don't do that. He goes, why don't you just go to Curtis? He's in the desert. He's my cousin, and he's a wholesaler. You can get a house from him.
So he saved you the 14,000.
No, no, no. This was after. This was
Oh.
way after. And
So you did take that course.
yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did. I did. And so I called Curtis, his cousin, and he was a wholesaler in the desert. And that's how I landed in Palm Springs. He gave me
Okay.
my first flip in Palm Springs. And I bought it, I think, for under 300K. And I sold it for 599 4 months later. Right? My
Mhm.
investor got paid, I got money, and then I looked at that check and I said, what? I can make this in 3 4 months?
Mm.
I said, how about if I make this times 10?
Mm.
So
Mhm.
that's how we got started. But interestingly enough, I remember my mentor said, go find the next property. And I did. But immediately you have to put an EMD down. And I
Yes.
had no money.
Okay.
It was a $5,000 EMD, and I didn't have that. I was calling around, family members, nobody had
Yeah.
it. I called my comadre, the same one that went with me to
Yeah.
look at that house that
But
was
she had
burned.
she had already seen you do a few things by now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so she lent it to me. She said, "See, comadre, right away." And I was like, "Thank you." So I sent the EMD in, and then I took the deal to Reed, and Reed was like, and I'm like, "Oh, don't say no, because then I'm gonna lose this EMD, and I don't have money to pay it." And so it was all taking chances. It was all, being having courage to,
Mhm.
you know,
And to even borrow the money.
and it was so embarrassing because I've been really good at making money.
Yeah.
So for me to ask for money, it's very hard. I'm not
Well,
comfortable with it.
I get it, but I think they loaned you the money, right?
Right.
She loaned it to you because she had it. The others didn't have it, or they probably would have loaned it. You had built a track record
Right.
already,
Right.
a track record of responsibility, being trustworthy.
Yeah.
They had seen maybe, some of the deals you've done before, heard about it. So,
She,
I'm
and
sure.
yeah, she knew that I was a hard worker and that no
Yeah.
matter what I would make it right.
Yes.
And she but those are the kind of chances that I would take,
Yeah.
because I just believe sink or swim,
Yes.
and even in that first deal, my mentor at the end of the day, he is a businessman and attorney and he's ruthless. So
Mm.
just because he knows me doesn't mean he wasn't going to protect himself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I remember he put a lien on my personal house
Oh, wow.
to
Yeah.
fund that other property,
Yep.
even though he had that one as equity.
Mhm.
So it was sink or swim.
Wow. Yeah. You had no choice
Yeah.
but to make it work.
Yep.
Ooh, but see,
Yeah.
that would scare anybody
Yeah.
on its own. They
Yeah.
just,
So it's
but you
sink or
have to,
swim. So we're swimming.
be willing to bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, girl.
Yeah.
So what's next well, I know what's next because like I started with, I had seen what you did in Whittier and I was like, okay, I know that's, from a friend or she knows him somehow. And sure enough, it was you. And you do know David. And you did so much in Palm Springs already, but you have your spa now, your day spa in Whittier.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
So
What brought that on? Because I do remember the property before
yes. Oh.
was, geez, a disaster. And then it was for sale. And then somebody bought it and you made it look beautiful. And then you put it on the market.
Yes.
And then it didn't sell.
Yes.
And so then you decided.
Well, the dream originally was for me not to sell it. Right.
Oh, okay.
So the whole purpose of this building in Uptown is I realized, I like you said, you didn't realize how long I lived in Whittier.
Mhm.
A lot of people actually think I live in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Because we kind of live the Palm Springs lifestyle,
Yes.
right? But no, I live in Whittier. And it's because of my daughter, right?
You stayed close for her.
Stable for her
Yeah.
and Whittier. And so I would travel to Palm Springs all the time. But anytime you talk to people outside of Palm Springs about Palm Springs,
Mhm.
they just glow up. I love Palm Springs and the sun and the palms and da da. So
The mountains.
I always get that reaction
Yeah.
from everybody. And I thought, I've never invested in the town that I live in.
Mhm.
And I said, and I've made Palm Springs so much money, brought them a lot of work, a lot of, I've doing
Yeah.
a lot over here. And I'm like, you know what? I have to invest in Whittier. This is where,
Where
my-
you decided you're
Yes.
going to call home for sure
Right.
now.
And so I thought, okay, and my dream was I want a little building in Uptown. Right?
Okay.
I want a little building
Yeah.
in Uptown. My ex and I would talk about that all the time. Imagine if we owned a little building in Uptown.
Oh,
And my daughter will always tell me also, you have such a great social life in Palm Springs, but you have no friends here in Whittier. It's true. I didn't actually start getting around the real estate community until a couple years ago
Yes.
in Whittier.
That's when we
Right?
met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everything would be home Palm Springs, home Palm Springs,
Mm.
and any social anything would be out
Yeah.
there. And I said, my daughter would tell me, I wish you had a social life here just the same way you do in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
But that's why I would love to go to Palm Springs because I would work hard, but then we go out to our dinners
Yes.
and, socialize. And so that I kept looking, as every investor, we're always looking. And I kept looking and I came across that building and I saw the price was the first thing that attracted me to it. Then I said, I remember I had nobody to represent me. And I called Patty and Angel, right? I called them up and I said, hey, I want to go see this building. And so they got me in there, and it was scary, even for me. It was scary.
It did look scary.
Super scary. I mean, when we demoed that building, I talked to Rick, my project manager, and he says we did at least 100 trailers of trash
Wow.
from demoing everything. There was a
Wow.
lot of rot.
Were there homeless living in there at that point or?
No.
N-
So it was called the Chiata building.
Okay.
They used to call him Mr. Whittier. He used to collect signs, vintage signs from
Oh.
the
Oh, is that
buildings.
where did the sign in there come or you had that made? There's a Whittier sign in there, no?
Where?
In the patio area.
Oh, no, no, that I had
You
made,
had
that
made.
Whittier Springs. But Mr. Shiata collected signage from old classic um, businesses from back in the
Yeah.
day, just a lot of stuff. And there was some really neat stuff,
Yeah.
but what do I do with it?
Yeah.
And I felt so guilty of just junking everything. So we called the museum. We donated
Oh,
a lot of stuff to the museum. Yeah,
good.
they were so happy.
Awesome.
We
Yeah.
donated a lot of stuff to them. The museum came and took whatever they wanted, and then we went to town.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of rut, a
Oh,
lot.
yeah.
We had
Yeah,
to
I remember.
we had to do a lot of framing, a lot of work in that
Yeah.
building, roof, mechanicals, everything. It's like a new building.
Mhm.
And so the thought behind that building is, a vacation rental, traditional renting, and downstairs in the commercial, always wanted to do a spa.
Yeah.
Initially, I wanted to do a massage spa, right? But then I saw that it's a lot more financially um, there's more financial
Beneficial.
opportunity, yes, for a health
Yeah.
spa or, versus a massage spa. And so and there's always a reason why I do things. So I
Mhm.
wanted a massage spa because the strongest thing I'll ever take is an Advil. I don't
Okay.
take, how they give you all this
Oh,
medication. I
yeah.
take none of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Yeah,
And
I
and
don't
I,
think anybody should.
because of, this beautiful business of ours that could be a little stressful at times,
Mhm.
I tend to get migraines. But it all
Mhm.
starts from my neck and
Yes.
it goes
The
up.
stress.
And everything, all of that, I think I have a good handle on it now. And it's all with massages, just
Yeah.
keeping my
The
regular
blood
massage.
flow.
Yeah. And so, therapeutic massages, and just doing everything holistically
Mhm.
with no medication.
Mhm.
And anytime you go to the doctor and you tell them, they want to put you on strong
Oh,
medication.
yeah.
And I am such a believer, and this is part of why I wanted to because I could have put any business down there.
Yeah.
This is why I wanted to put a massage spa there,
Mhm.
right? Because I want people to, I want to share my experience of why, holistically you can cure yourself.
Yes.
You don't need the medication, and it's
Yes.
addictive and all the side effects that it has in your body.
Yeah.
So that's how that came about. But then also, when we were thinking design, I kept thinking everybody loves Palm Springs.
Mhm.
So I thought, you know what? Let me bring Palm Springs to Whittier.
Yeah.
I want people to come into this building and feel like they're in Palm Springs, have
Yes.
that
Oh,
same
and you
vibe.
do. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
And
It
that's
really
where
is.
the name Whittier Springs came.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I do. And so you're also going to have the vitamin B12 shots and all of those health I don't even know what they have out now. But
Yeah, the IV fluids, right? It's a lot of vitamins and minerals that your body could be deficient on. You
yes.
can run, you can go to your physician and have them run your certain tests,
Mhm.
or you can get us the results, and we'll have our doctor look at them, and
And
then
that's
he
the
can,
best part,
yeah,
right? Like, you don't need to know everything. You hire the professionals who know
yeah,
everything in order to make sure that your spa runs properly and that they get exactly what they need. And that's what I always tell everyone. Like, we don't need you're the businesswoman, right?
hmm,
You're creating the space that you want others to know about because it's what helped you. And I think that's why I do this too, because podcasts helped me and
yeah,
because we don't know what we don't know.
right.
And today you sharing your story, you helped a lot of young women, I'm sure, kind of
Oh,
like
thank you.
think
Yeah,
better, you know? Think
it's really interesting because I've always been kind of reserved
Mhm.
until the last 4 or 5 years about my personal life.
Yeah.
It was more about the
Mhm.
business, and I've noticed that people connected so much more to me when I started sharing my struggles.
Well, because we live in such a very dominated business of ego and high achievers.
Mhm.
So they push that all the time. And it can make new agents or new people in the industry or just any young person feel like they don't have what it takes. But when they hear the real story, and they've actually led maybe a better life or, they get to learn from something you've shared or anybody else has shared. It gives them hope, right? It gives them a little fire and like, oh, well, if she could get through all that and still be here and do it and be successful
Yeah.
and now have a whole spa in Whittier, and you started in your 20s,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it gives them like, maybe I can do this too. So, yeah, I'm just so grateful that you do share your story now
Yeah.
because it
And
matters.
I myself, I'm kind of like, I've gone to a lot of networking events and
Mhm.
I've been invited to a lot of different things. And I don't want to do the fluff. Look at me. I've done this, I've done that. We share that on social media,
Yes.
right? But I think I appreciate more the real conversations
Mm-hmm.
is, yes, share the good that you've done, but also what struggles it got you, you went through to get there.
Yes.
And I believe there's a lot of value in that
Yeah.
because I think we're overly saturated with only the lifestyle thing versus, where's the struggles?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel on those Fridays where you take punches in the gut,
Yeah.
right?
And you're having an event coming up, correct?
Yes, yes. We're planning at the end of October having an event,
Mm-hmm.
and that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
Beautiful.
It's a few of us investors. We got together and we're putting on an event, and we're talking nothing but the truth of what we went through,
Mm-hmm.
not just the good things, but the bad things.
Yeah.
This last 2 years have been, hard, when you think you're going to make this much and your liquidity goes out the door, or your lender says, hey, this house took a long time to sell. If you don't pay us off on this house, then we're going to call all your loans due.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to sell some houses at a loss and still observe myself all those losses,
Yes.
right, while we're not selling houses. It's tough. You have to have a thick skin.
Yeah, and that's just it. You do have to have a thick skin. What would you say with any young girl who's coming into such a male-dominated field? I know there's a lot more women now. I was one of them, and you see there's like a handful, not a lot. So, what advice would you give them coming in and wanting to be in that space and learn in that space? And I mean, I'll say it first, right? Go to your event because it's a great way to connect with other women that are in that space before you step into such a male, maybe dominated meetup or
Yes.
something.
And to me, it's not so much male or female.
Mhm.
I would give this advice to any man or woman.
Okay.
You want to get into the space, partner up with somebody who knows.
Okay.
Pay a lot of attention
Mhm.
because you can lose your ass. And I've seen a lot of investors that come in and they're so hungry to get the deal. And I've coached some of these people and I said, and I've told them that is not a good deal.
Yeah.
And they do it anyways.
Mm.
And they say, oh, it's because we wanted to get our feet wet and we wanted to learn as we go. Yes, but you don't have to lose.
Yeah, you
You
don't have to
don't
learn
have
on
to
a
lose.
yeah, you
You
don't
don't
have to
have to
lose
turn
to
up
learn.
negative. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, either have a mentor
Mhm.
that can help you with the project or partner up with one because either you have to pay the big bucks for the mentor
Mhm.
or share in the profits with the mentor,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of people nowadays, and I'm guilty of that now. I used to give my time very freely. A lot
Mm.
of people, hey, let's go to lunch. Can I pick your brain?
Mm.
Or hey, do you have an hour? And I am the type that I love to help people.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, and I would take a lot of those phone calls, but it would go nowhere.
Yeah.
It would go nowhere.
It's
Uh,
really funny. It was Yoni. You know Yoni.
yeah.
I think it was Yoni that I told, and I'll never forget it because I respected him so much and I loved it so much. And I said, "Hey Yoni, do you mind like if we maybe meet? I would love to pick your brain." He's like, "About what?" He goes, "It really hurts to pick my brain." And I cracked up, but I was like, "You know what? He's right." And the more like even on my way over here, just on my way over here, I was like, I need to be more intentional about my time.
Hmm.
Like I need to start scheduling my time. Like, because a lot of times, right? It's like podcast guests. Oh, well, when do you want to shoot? Well, what works for you? It's like, no, I got to shoot out 4 dates and be like this between this date, this date, this date, this time, this time. This. That's just how I need to start being, not as malleable. Like
Hmm.
there's times we need to be malleable, right? But there's other times we need to be in control.
Right.
And especially when it comes to time and scheduling and who you're going to allow your energy to, that's just going to either drain it for no reason and not
Yeah.
go anywhere with it, or the ones that are really going to
Correct.
take what you give them and work with it, right?
Right. So that's what I do now. I partner up with people and I coach them and I take them through the process. And
Hmm.
these are people that are doing it, that will be there, that want to take that next step versus just hearing me speak and there is no action behind it.
Yeah,
And then I felt like I wasted my time. I could
right.
have been doing something else. And plus, we're so busy now,
Yeah.
right?
So you do mentor.
I do.
So where could they find you?
They can definitely contact me through Instagram. It's at
Okay.
Miss Violet Moran on Instagram. I do
I could
mentor.
just go on with you, Miss Violet, but we
Yes.
do have to wrap. But
Yes.
okay, so Miss Violet
Yes. Miss
Moran.
Violet Moran.
Is
Yes.
there a little dash, underscore,
No,
nothing?
MissVioletMoran.
Okay. And
Miss
we'll
Violet
also put
Moran.
it up for sure. But yeah, well, do you want to leave anybody with any words of wisdom? All this wisdom you've already dropped, but
For me, I just think the don't stop. That's the best thing I can recommend. Just don't stop.
okay.
Just even if I have investor friends that have gone through a lot of things this last year,
Hmm.
you can absorb losses if you have some losses, but then you start having some winners, those winners can absorb the losses.
Mm,
But if you stopped at a loss
mm,
and you
yeah.
can't recover from that.
Okay.
Just don't stop. Keep
Don't
going.
stop. Keep going.
Yeah.
You heard it from her.
Yeah.
Someone who keeps going. Little firecracker, Miss Violet.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you so much for coming. I
Oh,
really appreciated it.
thank you for
And
having me.
we're gone, guys. Bye.